it's really an honor for me to join them and to be here to talk about these monumental changes in the world economy, the context in which Africa now is growing. One of the things that have changed also in the course of the last few years has been the very good growth performance of African economies. Their management of their economies, responding to the crisis, the resilience that was shown in terms of how they responded and how they managed to mitigate the impact of the crisis. And this is in average terms, of course, for sub-Saharan Africa that I work on, 44 countries in our department. But compared to days of the past when there was substantial discussion and some disagreement about the importance of macroeconomic stability, we find that there's really broad ownership of that as a critical underpinning of sustained growth. And the track record is already there in many sub-Saharan African countries, demonstrating that they've now moved to a path of growth that can be sustained. And through the crisis, sub-Saharan Africa managed to continue to grow. They're growing now at some 5.5%, we think, this year. More next year, possibly. Of course, lots of uncertainties on the international front. Some of the issues Kemal already talked about. The performance of the advanced countries and uncertainties around that, and whether the context for growth for sub-Saharan Africa remains to be positive, remains to be seen. But it's a very encouraging beginning, and the fund has been very happy to, with others, work on those issues of global public goods that are important to sub-Saharan Africa. Of course, the effort to limit any future financial crises. It's a very important one for sub-Saharan Africa, the emergence of the G20. Despite the very limited presence of Africa in that group, with South Africa, of course, there. The G20, the voice of sub-Saharan Africa has been heard in the G20. We look at the outcomes of the March 2009 G20 meeting, when, of course, efforts to raise concessional financing were launched, a large amount of concessional financing, asking us to take a second look at debt limits and how they impact on infrastructure financing, trying to make room for financing more infrastructure while at the same time working to sustain the debt levels that have been significantly reduced over time. And the overhauling of all our instruments at the fund were encouraged at that meeting as well and taken up by our board. So lots of things that have really signaled a big change in the way the fund works with low-income countries, resonated with the G20 and were supported there. And many things that the G20 are working on that are not necessarily specifically low-income country issues, of course, are good public goods for low-income countries. And the effort to deepen their own peer review process and to mitigate spillover effects from bad economic performance in their economies to the rest of the world. Those things are critical for sub-Saharan Africa. And so I think it's a very encouraging environment for the efforts that are underway in the continent.
Thank you. Antoinette?